So our last candidate is Mark Glogoswski, who is running for the 139th District in New York State Assembly. Mark, how are you?
Good. Thank you for inviting me on.
It's our pleasure. Normally in Meet the Candidates Day, we're going to give you a couple of minutes to start out with whatever general planks that you'd like to talk with people about, and then we're going to have some questions for you.
Okay. One of my primary goals in running for this position is to bring people to the awareness that we live with tyranny, and we call it good government in action. There's all types of it, but one of the most dramatic is going to affect all of the third parties in the next year or two, and that's the legislation that was passed in the budget. It was passed unconstitutionally in the budget. They've raised the stakes for the bar for third parties and independent nominating bodies. We used to have to collect 3 times the number of signatures just to get our candidate on the ballot and to become recognized 50,000 votes for governor. They now decided the state parties have to have a presidential candidate, and they've raised the number of votes required to either 150,000 or 2% of the population. They also increased 9-fold the number of signatures we needed to collect and changed the time frame for when we collect them from the summer when people used to gather for fairs and carnivals and parades to April and May. It's going to be nearly impossible for any third party or independent nominating body to meet that standard. And as a result, we're going to be seeing third parties disappear very quickly in the next couple of years unless that legislation is successfully challenged. This doesn't really have much to do with the people that have disabilities and handicaps. But one of the things I wanted to point out in the beginning is that I don't like that terminology, disabilities and handicaps. That already underscores a barrier that they're never going to be able to get over. And people aren't going to be able to understand that don't have those disabilities or handicaps. And what I would like to do is start changing the technology to refer to them as challenged, physically challenged, mentally challenged individuals, because everyone can now relate. Because if you play a game, you're not familiar with the game, you do an entry level until you start become familiar with the rules. And then the challenge is there to move on. Everybody can relate to a challenge. But it's no different than what these people live with every day. Their challenges are, how do you go about making breakfast? What clothes should I wear? How do I get through this doorway that's too narrow? Those are challenges. And I think if people started looking at these people as having challenges, we can address the challenges and help them out. We can't help their handicap. We're physically unable to change their handicap situation, but we can address the challenges. And when you come to businesses have a challenge themselves. They have limited resources and they have to address their other customers too. We have standards now that they have to meet if they're going to allow the handicap to come into their building. They have to have special doors and special ramps, and they can't address those any other way. What we need to do, if we really want to bring these people into the community, now there's 2 different types of community that I'd like to address, but we want to bring them into the community that the businesses are in. We need to basically relax the zoning regulations and relax the government requirements so that these people can do the best they can to help with the challenges that people have. And I think you'll find that there'll be a lot more reception for these people with the physical and mental challenges. One of the things I'm really perplexed with is the concept of the community. One of the things you talked about was if people were in a mental institute or some kind of a physical institute run by the government, and then they're released, where do they go? Well, the problem is the community, they're in a government community, and you're looking for government to come up with a solution. 107 years of government solutions haven't solved the problem. And the predecessor on this show just said that, 100 years. What we need to do is address the challenges that the individual themselves have dealing with people with these special challenges. And so we need to look at the community of individuals, the populace out there, say, what is their barrier to helping these people? They're coming out from a government institute and just being released on the street. What is the barrier for the people to help them out, and start addressing some of those barriers? The fact that they're just being released onto the street with no place to go, that indicates that inside that government community, there was no interaction going on for these people to make links with the rest of the community in the world. And we need to address that situation. We need to bring nonprofit organizations and religious organizations into those government facilities and start helping them integrate these people with special challenges back into the normal society. I just lost you. Hang on a second.
Todd,
No, you didn't. This is me forgetting to press the unmute button.
Okay.
I muted myself so that no one would be distracted while you were speaking. Actually, I'm going to let Mark ask the first question because he didn't get a chance to ask this question to the last candidate, and I think this would be a good one for you.
All right. With regard to employment, what would you do to ensure positions and expand positions for individuals with disabilities? And would you be willing to create a position or multiple positions in your office for individuals with disabilities?
Just a moment before you answer, because I want to make sure that it's explained. We've been asking this question all day. I've just gotten something on the feed asking why. So it's good education for you, Mark, and then I'm going to let you answer it. When we're talking about people with disabilities, there is a 60 to 70% number of people with disabilities that want jobs in the community but cannot get them. Okay? And up to this point, the single most consistent employer of people with disabilities is government in 55A or 55B jobs. So the question is brought to, how will you get more people with disabilities into the workforce?
Okay, there's actually two steps I would take. The first is the minimum wage is a real barrier for people with disabilities, primarily for two reasons. One, the employer is very resistant to bring somebody in and spend the time and effort, because it's his time and effort that's worth basically a fortune to him, to bring these people up to speed. So he's going to be training these people. He doesn't have the confidence really until he's actually used to these people to actually know what they can do. And so the whole purpose of having a graduated step payment is to allow the people to develop their abilities, their skills, to develop their work skills, to develop the technical skills they need to actually be productive. And then as they become productive, the employer is going to feel more and more confident as to paying them higher wages, knowing that they're getting a return on their dollar. That's basically the only way they can stay in business, is to have the employees make enough money as an employee so that they can cover all of the expenses, including the employee's pay. So there's a barrier there that needs to be breached, and the only way to breach it is to allow this graduated increase in terms of pay based on a graduated increase in terms of productivity. Now, I believe there are tons of things that people with any kind of a challenge, physical or mental, can do in a business. The problem is we can't spell them out quickly, and the government doesn't have to worry about making a profit. They can hire people and just keep taking taxpayer money and transferring it to these people and calling it a job. But in reality, that's not a productive way to employ people. And we need to do the transition. And I would like to focus on that transition. The other is a barrier that the individual themselves have. Once they start earning cash, all of a sudden, with $1 more, and they start losing benefits. And I think that standard has to go. We need to allow people to actually work for a while without losing benefits, so they know they have the security and they can go out confidently every day and try to earn a living, and then never cut their benefits until they have a security blanket of maybe 2, 4, 6 months of savings, so that should something happen, they can survive until they get back on the system. Otherwise, that barrier will never allow a single person with any kind of a challenge, physical or mental, from getting a job. So we need to take and actually address that situation with those two. We need to work with the employers and allow them to gradually increase the pay as the people prove themselves, and that's as the employer finds out what they can do. Sometimes they'll be very amazed at what these people can do, and they can accommodate. Once they learn how to accommodate for their physical or mental disabilities, they can probably do a heck of a lot more than we could imagine. One of the people I greatly admire is Thomas Quitter. He's running for the Senate on the Libertarian line. And you need to look him up because he's my ideal. He has overcome challenges I could not believe I could face. And he's a fantastic person. And he demonstrates what people with these physical challenges can do in society. I hope I answered your question.
You absolutely did. Actually, it was quite a detailed answer, and you covered a lot of the other stuff that was coming across the feed in your earlier statement. And believe it or not, 10 minutes has flown by. You did great.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, I want to thank you for being with us today, and I wish you the best of luck on your campaign. As with all of the candidates, because you appeared live today, if there are any questions that they have in the feed that are not answered, I will send them back to you for you or your campaign to answer, okay?
Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for coming.